We have in Broomfield, Colorado, for those of you that aren't all that familiar with Gogo, Gogo has two divisions. Gogo has a commercial airline division, and that commercial airline division handles the Deltas of the world, the Virgin Atlantics, and so forth. And so when you're on one of those flights, you're probably on a Gogo network. Big difference right now between the business aviation side of the house and that commercial aviation side of the house is all those folks on the commercial aviation side of the house are moving away from air-to-ground type connections, and they're moving to our 2KU connection, which is for the larger aircraft or VVIP type airplanes, which gives them a satellite connection versus an air-to-ground based connection. We have 25 years in business. We are the industry leader in connectivity. We have been ranked #1 in customer support, I think, for 6 years now in a row. So we have a great customer support organization that helps resolve problems, helps take care of billing, and makes adjustments as necessary with plans if customers need that. And then you can also see right here all of the various networks that we operate with over 17,000 systems in operation right now. Our overall company actually has about 1,000 employees globally, and about every 11 seconds, some aircraft takes off with a Gogo product, and we hit about 80,000 internet sessions a day on our products. We're on all the fractionals, the large fractionals, and you know, this really sums it up, this right here. Having Wi-Fi is no longer a luxury on aircraft. It's become a necessity. And a good example of that is I have a lot of 135 operations in my region. And I had one operator call me up, about halfway through last year, and he said, Scott, I just am not getting any 135 charter work anymore. He said, it's all going to my competitor. And so the first question I asked was, does the competitor have internet Wi-Fi on board the aircraft? And they said yes. And he said, well, I said, when did they put that in, just out of curiosity? And about 6 months ago, he said. When did your business start tailing off? About 6 months ago is when it started tailing off. So he realized real quick that he needed to start outfitting his Lear 45s with some connectivity for those customers. His business has started to come back because now he has connectivity. So it falls right in line with what is being said, you know, that it's no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. And as you notice, most OEMs, these are now forward fit products on the production line, whereas a few years ago, these weren't forward fit products. These were always post-delivery commitments, or these were things that were installed as an aftermarket installation. First item we're going to talk about is the AVANCE platform. It's an operating platform, no different than your iPhone operating platforms or your Android operating platforms. It's our software operating platform. It's what ties everything together for our new Gogo products. It's what gives them all the same common feel when you're operating them. And in some cases, for the installers, it gives them the same type of installation. They all have a similar type installation path on each product. You can even see right here that these boxes all look pretty much the same. As we move through, here's the SCS product, 2 MCU, 3 MCU, 5 MCU box. But you can see here's the core of the same box built out in each one of these. So 3 products, 1 platform to operate them. We're moving away. The LRUs specific to each product, we're moving away from that concept. In the product and design and development, we're focused on this common set of hardware and components all run through that same software, dependent upon the owner's missions and their operations and how they can be configured. So we also operate a business system that all the information is channeled through. The new products give us the ability to make product changes just by making some of those service changes added through our business service gateway, instead of having to bring the product back to an installing dealer and possibly having them make a software update or a product change. We also have implemented a new set of mobile applications that you'll find on your phone, Gogo DASH being a good example of that. You can actually pull your phone out and check and see how many devices are active on your network, gives you an overall status. And then it also at times helps us, that information gets fed back to Gogo through that business system gateway. So in review of that, it's a common user interface amongst each one of those products that we're developing, and the future products that we're developing too that we may not have even announced at an event. Those are also falling into that same category of a software-centric platform. Alert our customer service. So our boxes are smart boxes now, and they're proactive. So when that box is in service, it will actually ping our NOC back in Broomfield, Colorado, Chicago, and let us know if there could be a potential problem with that box failing, so that when that owner-operator gets back on the ground, we might already have contacted you and say, look, we saw an irregularity in the operation of your L3 or in the operation of your L5 box. And at that point in time, we might be able to dispatch a new box so that you're not down for any period of time. It does do all of our updates from the ground through that business service gateway. It benefits from the latest Wi-Fi standard, our AC router. Back to that classic ATG product. That classic ATG product had a BG router. Let's face it, 2007, 2008, we all had Blackberries and Motorola flip phones, and we thought we were pretty cool, and that was the best technology that was available. But just like in your own home, you've probably updated your router since 2008 at least 2, maybe 3 times, depending upon what service provider you have. The same's true of your airplane at this point in time. That router is a 10-year-old technology router. It needs to be updated to handle all the new smart devices that are out there trying to operate. The new product also, any bearer that Gogo brings to market will interface in through our L3 and L5 and SCS boxes. And then we're also able to support all of our back shop operations right here because of the smart design of those boxes. Real-time support tools, I mentioned it with the business service gateway, we call it the BSG. It's all cloud-based system, and it operates 24/7, 365 days, feeding information into our NOC and into our operations, which the NOC is our Network Operations Center. Sometimes, you know, in the aviation business, in all these businesses, we all use a lot of acronyms anymore. So if I throw 3 letters out there and you don't know what it is, don't be shy, raise your hand and I'll explain what that may be. But sometimes we all get embroiled in those and we just, right off the top of our head. So here's that view of the Dash, which is that mobile application. You can see right here, it says that there are 5 devices connected, the internet's active, and then if you had other services, you could see they would all be indicating that they were active also through that Dash application program. All 3 of these products, the SCS product, the L3 product, and the L5 product, also bring an IFE experience now to the cabin for the passengers on board. It comes standard, all 3 of them come standard with what we call the information. And the information is the moving maps, the weather, and the news clips. And those get updated on a regular basis through the 4G terrestrial network that's available when the aircraft's on the ground. All that information will get updated as you get back on weight on wheels, as we'll call it. And then if you wanted to enhance that IFE experience, you could add our TV and movie episodes. We work with several clearinghouses, just like what you'll find on the commercial aviation side of it, the Deltas and so forth. You have an in-flight catalog of movies to choose from, and you also have TV episodes to choose from if you decide to add this subscription. And I'll go into the subscription pricing and some of those other features as we cover a couple of these other products. And then we like to say we work very well with other people in the sandbox, okay? I talked to one gentleman from Satcom Direct over here, and we work with Satcom Direct to help make their products play with our products and our products play with theirs, just like we do with Collins and Honeywell. Sometimes, guys, some of these interfaces are very difficult to resolve, and it does take time, but to try to get them all talking together, we're very proactive in making all these systems work together. One thing that's nice also about with the Gogo Vision, be it if you have the information and or the entertainment portion, is that you're able to customize a landing page. You know, we used to have, all of our airplanes used to have all these Rosens that went down the side of each sidewall. Everybody had 5, 6 Rosens and a couple monitors here and a monitor in the back of the airplane. And as you all know, those get kind of clunky, all those devices. Well, most people anymore bring on their own personal device. The national average is 3.2 devices get hauled onto each airplane by each person, if you can believe that, be it commercial or be it the GA world. So they haul on a laptop, they bring on some sort of a tablet, and they bring on a cell phone. And if you're a pilot, a lot of times, pilots actually bring on two phones. They have a personal phone and company phone. Before you know it, one person might have 5 IP addresses wrapped up. They got their crazy iWatch going, and before you know it, every device is being fed through the internet. And so, back to the PDAs. So what's nice about this is you're actually able to personalize a landing page. OEMs love it because when a customer shows up to pick up their new Citation 10, they're able to customize this landing page, so when they log on, they say, hello, Mr. Tychen, welcome to Textron Aviation. You know, your aircraft serial number, all those things are important. If you're a 135 operator, think about how nice that would be to make that a personalized experience for each one of your 135 passengers that get on board. Hello, Mr. So-and-so. Hello, Mrs. So-and-so. Welcome on board, you know, XYZ charter flight. So it's a nice way to personalize that flight. It also gets all the information here. So you can see your trip duration. So I think this is a PBI, I believe, but PBI to Denver. And it also lets you pick Gogo Vision and weather and information, flight route. So it gives it a much more personalized experience. With that said, I'll go into the specific features now of the SCS. SCS stands for Smart Cabin System. It's a 2 MCU box right here on the left. And you can see that's the primary building block that we'll work off of. Some of you may recall we had a product called the UCS 5000, Universal Cabin System 5000. This is the next version. This is the next iteration of that. We retired that UCS box. There's still a few people that want those, and because they have a fleet maybe, and they may want to match that UCS box to their other ones. But for the most part, this is the box that's now replaced that if you want an IFE solution alone. This is also a standalone box. So if you have a customer that really doesn't want their airplane to be ever hooked up to the internet, but they might want some in-flight entertainment, this is a box for them. It's less cost than adding an internet connectivity solution, but it does provide them with an in-flight entertainment solution. Comes in 2 versions, okay? The SCS comes in both the Elite and the Media. The Elite version, the difference is it's a multi-bearer, okay? So it's going to play in the sandbox with more products. You can tie various products into that, whereas the Media version is a single bearer. You may tie in a Swift broadband product, such as an Aviator product, or you may tie in an ATG product, a classic ATG product. It's a great, this right here, this Media version, is a great tie-in for somebody who already has an existing ATG product and says, hey, I want to bring that IFE experience to the cabin also. This is the way to do it. Continue to use your ATG box and tie in an SCS product to that. It brings in a new router, brings in a new style router. So here's the cabin. Brings in the dual band 5 gig, 2.4 gig AC router. It handles your WAN management. And once again, on the Elite, it's a multi-bearer and voice management. So it's going to also tie in to that system. I mentioned it handles a lot of things, guys and gals. It manages multiple networks, and you can see all the variety of products that we continue to interface with. And then it also does some cabin management. So it ties into the cabin management system on the aircraft. And those are the manufacturers of those cabin management systems that we operate with. The SCS Elite, the first page, it shows the moving map. You got to remember, on a lot of aircraft, they don't have a moving map. Smaller turboprops, light aircraft, PC-12s, those products may not have that feature on board. And so this is a lower cost solution to bring a moving map in. And you can see here's a destination, aircraft information, flight time. And that's pretty much exactly what it looks like. And also you can load in the news clips, and we show these both on individual PDAs. So here's somebody's phone and here's somebody's iPad. The Elite also, of course, and you're going to kind of hear this theme repeated over and over, but the Elite also brings in the IFE, and here's the subscriptions. So it's a monthly subscription. That monthly subscription can be a little bit complicated to understand, so I'll try to make it as easy as possible. The monthly subscription to activate the entertainment portion is $525 per month, and it has a maximum cost of $895 per month. The reason I point that out, minimum cost of $525, maximum of $895, is because each movie that you watch, each TV episode, each movie is $10, each TV episode is $6. No different than we watch Xfinity or Comcast or Time Warner Cable or any of those things when you pull up some of these items. That movie's good for 24 hours, that TV episode's good for 24 hours on those PDAs. And then when you reach $895, so each TV episode $6, each movie episode $10, when you reach $895, it maxes out. So you know if you're a 135 operator, if you're going to add this feature to your operation, your max out-of-pocket cost each month is $895, depending upon how hard that airplane works for a living. And you could generate 60, 70 movies if that airplane's going out almost every day on a 135 mission. For 91 operators, it gives families, friends, coworkers, and people like that also an IFE solution when they're traveling home from a meeting, when they're on their way to a meeting. They can actually use this as a file server and share files too. One of the other benefits is that we now have it in multi-languages. So you can see if you have customers that are in various areas and want this IFE solution, we support them with multiple languages. The content rolls about every 30 days. So about every 30 days, we send a notification out that says, catalog number 142 is now available for your download. You can download that information 3 different ways. You can do it through what we'll call old school method of a USB stick that we mail out to you. You take it out and you put it in the box, lights flash, it pulls the information in, takes the information off, you're up and running. You can do it through a cloud. If you are near a Signature Flight Support facility or use Signature Flight Support facilities, they have a Gogo Cloud at their facilities. And if you have them park you within a reasonable distance to the FBO, you can usually pick up that Gogo signal and download that. And then the third method is when you buy either an L3, an L5, or an SCS product, we provide also a hotspot for your hangar. So if you were hangared in this facility, you'd mount that hotspot right up there where I see that one, and it would beam out. If you were in your hangar and when your airplane came home, tucked it in at night, you could have it upload and download the data and you're ready to go for the next day. Not everybody is fortunate enough to have a private hangar or have their own hangar. Sometimes you're in a community hangar with others, and so that solution may not be the right solution for you. That's why we offer three solutions for updating that data. I mentioned how easy it was to customize that landing page. That kind of gives you a better example, has a little bit bigger picture, but it gives you the tiles down below and things to select. We just talked about that, how to update it from your hangar so that fresh content comes in on a regular basis, as I mentioned, and we notice that. I will mention that if you're a dealer and or if you're a customer that's here, when you are doing those installations or when you're picking up your airplane, be sure that you pick it up with that device. A lot of times people have failed to order that device and they get home with their airplane and they say, my gosh, how do we get our data? And so we have to go through that process of sending stuff out. So when you're either working with your installer on the installation, make sure that you let them know that you're aware that there should be a cloud product provided with their installation. And then if you're a dealer, make sure you provide that. And then, like I mentioned, we're adding additional cloud facilities, signature facilities all the time. The SCS, L3, and L5 all have an integrated 4G terrestrial modem. So when you're on the ground, you're going to start picking that up. 120 countries. It supports all of these activities, so it synchronizes news and weather. It does the offload of all those analytics that I talked about. It does. It allows you to browse the internet while on the ground, and then it does also do some statistic assets with the application. So, and then it all ties right back into our BSG, our Business Service Gateway. Right there, you can see how that information gets uploaded and downloaded on a regular basis. So we'll do a couple system diagrams. I'm an engineer at heart, and I always like system diagrams. So I think they're a lot of times more helpful to explain things. So you can see right here, here are all these hungry devices that everybody likes to bring on board, and we have to feed them. And so here's your SCS product right here. You could have a corded handset that ties to it. You could have a wired internet. Right here, your ATG 5000 box is serving that purpose for the internet. It gets an aircraft config module. All of our products you'll find get this aircraft config module. And then this has the ATG 3G antennas that are currently used on it. So that's an Elite with an ATG 5000. Here's an Elite product. If you maybe had international, and I mentioned ATG product and then also our Aviator product. The Aviator product is a Swift broadband product and serves outside the United States or serves in the United States if your customer or your owner or you demand connectivity from the ground up to 10,000 feet AGL. Because keep in mind, our air-to-ground products turn on at 10,000 feet AGL, and they turn off at 10,000 feet AGL. And I have one stockbroker in my territory, I have more than that, but one stockbroker in my territory said he cannot be without internet connectivity from the time he leaves his car to the time he gets in his airplane to the time he gets to 10,000 feet. So he actually has two systems in his airplane. He has a Swift broadband system that handles that portion of it, which handshakes over to the ATG product when he gets to 10,000 feet, and then handshakes back to at 10,000 feet when he's back on his descent, so that he always maintains connectivity. So you can see how this box is tied in, okay? Low gain, high gain, or mid gain antennas. And then here we go, this is what he's coupled up with. So these are the products, the Swift broadband, our Aviator product, tied into the SCS, the ATG 5000, tied into the SCS, and keep in mind it's tied into the Elite. If this were an SCS media, you'd only be able to tie one of these in, okay? So always keep that in mind when you're doing your planning. Recap on the SCS Elite. It takes care of WAN management. It has the AC routers. It's a dynamic multi-bearer, okay? That's probably the biggest takeaway on the Elite is it's a multi-bearer. It does provide that 4G connectivity on the ground. It does cabin management system interface and integration for us. It also does a PBX auto attendant, manages and routes calls over Iridium, the Swift broadband, or the Gogo Biz network. Okay? We covered the Gogo Vision, the entertainment on the monthly subscription, the landing pages, the Vision content, and then also the BSG network. The media, we'll run through it. It's only a couple slides on the media, but it's a single bearer. Other than that, it's pretty much going to operate the same as the Elite does. It operates with that dual band, but it's a single bearer, and it's going to support either our Gogo Biz or our Swift broadband product. Yes, John.
4G service on the ground. The 4G service on the ground, how does that differ from your standard data plan you have through your phone company?
It won't. You'll just be using that data plan. When you're on the ground, you're not using the data plan that's associated with that because you're using the 4G terrestrial network at that time. Yep. So SCS media, okay, it is an integrated wireless access point. It's a single bearer, okay? This is what I talked about, lap-to-lap file transfers. That's pretty handy sometimes if you've got multiple employees on an airplane and they're trying to share files together. It works out really well to do that. We've done that on a couple of our demo flights. And then you can see it has those same features, Gogo Vision, Gogo Entertainment, the landing page, the content, and then the BSG. Basically the same box, just a little bit of different interior workings. So here's a quick schematic of what this looks like again as a single bearer. Once again, the ATG is sitting there to support it. This could be an ATG, it could be an ATG 1000, it could be an ATG 2000, it could be an ATG 4000, it could be a 5000. It supports all of those products. And then also with the Aviator product, you can see how it's supported. Oops, sorry about that, guys. You can see how it's supported in this duplexer antennas SCS product. Subscription plans. Here's the data. This kind of clears it up. $525 minimum cost. This is for an international version right here for various languages. All of these items are included. Here's your movies. And then we've also just recently added magazines. There's still folks that like reading magazines, and so you can actually pull up an electronic magazine and go through it with that subscription. Any questions on the SCS product before I move on to L5? Yes, sir. Good question. Why is it blocked out from 0 to 10,000 feet? Well, our towers, we have approximately 250 towers, maybe a few more, maybe a few less, but more than likely a few more than that, across the United States, strategically located. And as that tower sends out a signal, a kind of a cone, we'll call it, where all those cones converge is at about 10,000 feet. So if we draw circles where those towers are, they would all converge at that 10,000 feet limit. Now, I've only been with Gogo for a few years, but I heard a story that at one time they allowed people to ride the cone, I was told. But what happens is you ride that cone down, your connectivity may become very spotty or erratic because you're not getting a full signal. But by having all those overlap, you pick up that full signal. So that's why it's at 10,000 feet AGL. Joe, you want to elaborate on that at all?
It's our FCC license. It's the FCC license that we got, the spectrum. They're only allowing us to operate at that in conjunction with its reliability at 10,000 feet. It wouldn't be good to have a service that's not reliable at 2,000 feet in some areas, right? So that combined with the FCC license.
Any more on SCS? Okay. L5. Most of you know L5 as what we called our 4G product. We called it our 4G product for almost 2 years, from when it was announced at NBAA 2015 up until about midsummer last year. And our marketing department thought that it should have a proper name and it should tie all of these products together. And so that's where the name AVANCE, some people say AVANCE, some people say AVANCE. I don't know if you have a little bit of French in you, might say AVANCE. But it's the L5 product, formerly known as the 4G product. You can say it's our larger box. It sits on the right-hand side. It's a 5 MCU box. And this is, like it says, it's a powerhouse. It is a dual band. Once again, just like the SCS, it is a smart router. Hey, you got to be a smart router if you're going to handle all these smart devices, right? So it's got a smart router in it now. It manages multi-networks. It does cabin management, integration. It handles the information and entertainment services through the Gogo Vision. And then it also is 4G terrestrial modem when it's on the ground. Here's what it looks like if we were to peel back the cover. It's important to know that this is a dual air card, okay, versus an ATG product, which is a single air card, okay? That's what starts to give it the horsepower that it needs. It's also what allows it to be powerful enough to do streaming, okay? Big differences from an ATG product to an L5 product is now that if you choose a streaming enabled plan, you can stream whatever you want to stream to the aircraft. We don't control content that gets streamed. So it also allows for functionality such as VPN and then audio video streaming through that process. We've done a number of demo flights on that L5 product across the United States. We were actually operating 2 Gulfstream G4s, and we did demo flights out at NBAA last year out at Las Vegas, and had really good results out there, and we continued those demo flights across the United States. We have approximately 100 aircraft right now in service with the L5. We received certification a little later than those of us in sales and some other folks wanted last year. We started actually shipping out boxes, I think, in September time frame. We've now have, like I said, about 100 in service. And we have about 700 of those boxes already spoken for. And so if you were to want to put in an L5 product right now, unfortunately, until our second antenna supplier comes online, you're looking at about a December time frame for the hardware. We can support everything but the antennas, the LRUs and so forth, but it's antenna specific right now. And I'll show you those antennas in a little bit. We did mention that it does operate on that 4G terrestrial on the ground. So it's going to connect to that signal in all of these countries. And it's going to provide information back through that business system gateway network. That's going to keep that Gogo Vision content updated, and then it's going to maintain the LRU profiles. It provides all of these features, the L5. It's the heavyweight. It does it all. It's going to do that. It has talk and text feature built into it. So for those of you that also know about ATG products, when you wanted to add the talk and text feature to an ATG product, you had to purchase what was called an entitlement key. That entitlement key was $9,995. You had to take it back into your dealer. Your dealer did the install on that, and then you were good to do the talk and text. Some people say, why do I need talk and text? I do Wi-Fi calling all the time. Well, I always say, I'm a pretty straight guy. I've been in aviation for 32 years. I say, knock yourself out. If you want to do Wi-Fi calling, do it all day long. Just keep in mind that there's not a dedicated bandwidth when you're doing Wi-Fi calling. When you use the Gogo Talk and Text feature, it has a dedicated bandwidth within that that's going to provide you with a consistent call. And if you're on Wi-Fi calling, it's carrier specific. And if your calls get dropped, that's really not Gogo's issue at that point in time because you're on another carrier, okay? So I always like to point that out, that talk and text is a big plus, and it comes standard now. Emailing, of course, VPN and internet. And you can see how we cover the United States up into Canada. This was an area that was just recently added, all the way up to Alaska. And then you can pretty much ride it until you're ready to push off to Greenland. So one of the things that being in Florida that I like to point out, we have probably one of the heaviest traveled internet routes for general aviation. And that route is right here, guys, Southeast Florida to right here, Teterboro. Heaviest traveled route Tuesday through Thursday out of the week consistently, okay? And so one of the things that air traffic control likes to do is when you're coming out of here, they will give you a Victor airway and they'll put you, or a high altitude airway, and they'll put you out here. And when you come down this way, you will run right through what I've named the Georgia Notch. And when you hit the Georgia Notch, you lose connectivity. And the next thing you do is you call Scott up and say, hey, we lost our connectivity from Teterboro to Fort Lauderdale. And so I go on FlightAware and I pull up your flight track and I see that you ran right through the Georgia Notch. And so I suggest that your flight crew in the future talk to air traffic control and pick some sort of a waypoint or another Victor airway to get you here if staying on the internet is important to you through that entire process. And it's kind of funny, but this happens week after week after week. They route them right through this little notch right here. And we don't have any cell towers on buoys yet. I mean, we just aren't there. I've got one man that wants me to put some cell towers out here because he goes this direction a lot and he loses coverage somewhere right in this area. So it is tower specific. Back to 4G. So it is the big bearer. It manages all these products. So it's going to manage the Gogo Biz. It's going to handle the classic Inmarsat Swift broadband products as we have listed here. Honeywell products, Rockwell products. It handles our Iridium, our ST4300, our ST4200 access, and then it also does tie in to Honeywell's Inmarsat Jet Connect. Cabin management. Very similar to the SCS, okay? You're starting to see that consistent theme. We support the cabin management, and here are those manufacturers that we support also, okay? SSID for the cabin, single LRU for all of it. Gogo Vision, it has an onboard, aviation-grade onboard server. So all of that content that we keep talking about, the Gogo Vision movies and the Gogo Vision TV episodes, they're all resident right there on your airplane. They're sitting on a hard drive, and so they're easily accessible. You don't have to stream information back and forth. Keep in mind, streaming comes at a cost, okay? And that's when you start looking at your data plans and you look at the amount of travel that you may have and the amount of opportunity to stream, and maybe even your passenger load on what type of folks like to do streaming versus folks that are just doing internet browsing. Very, very, very passenger specific activity. So provides an extraordinary experience. There's no buffering that you'd see if you were actually beaming it up or beaming it down, the cost. And then it does, Gogo Vision supports up to 25 individual streaming devices from that. So entertainment and information, again, once again, all those things are provided. Branding, landing pages we mentioned, it's all automatic, wireless updates that go through the Gogo Cloud. Talk and text. So most people anymore choose to use their personal phone on board an airplane over using a wired or a wireless phone if they have that option. And so that's what our talk and text feature allows them to do. Once again, it provides a clear, consistent phone call versus Wi-Fi calling. Wi-Fi calling works great. I've had it work a few times. It works fine, but I've also had it drop a call a couple times. And so that's the big difference, is that we have a dedicated bandwidth. Here's what that talk and text looks like. Here's your own iPhone right there. It accesses all your contacts and information. I'll point out that one of the things that I see happen probably more often than not with the talk and text feature is that you have to download that app prior to getting on board the airplane, and you have to register it. So what happens on occasion is we have customers that will download the app, but then they'll forget to register it. And so when they get up in the air, it doesn't find the talk and text. It doesn't find it. It just sits there and spools. And so be sure that anybody who's coming on board that may want to use that feature, that while they're on the ground, be sure that they download that app first and be sure that they complete the registration process, okay? But you can see it gives you that same type of format. People ask me, well, if I've got the talk and text feature, do I have to have a voice plan? Good question. And the answer is yes. If you have a talk and text feature, you will have the data will run through your data plan. The voice will run through your voice plan. Most people find out that 60 minutes for a voice plan is more than enough. That 60 minutes comes in at $134.95 a month for the voice plan, and they'll find that they use probably anywhere from about 30 to 60 minutes on a monthly basis. I don't have too many clients, even larger corporate clients, that have a bigger voice plan than that. We offer up to an unlimited voice plan at $995 a month, but I just don't see, people just don't talk that much on that feature. They use the texting feature. So there you go. These are like gold anymore right here. I mean, these yes, Tom. It does. It sure does. No, the question was, does the talk and text have the same 10,000 foot on-off switch, so to speak? And the answer is yes, because it's operating through our ATG product. Correct. Yep. So this is what we call our L5 antenna. And those of you that are familiar with the ATG product, the King Air over there, it's kind of a long ways to go, but that King Air over there has an ATG product right there in the back, sitting there. That's a smaller antenna than what's on here. That antenna is what's called an omnidirectional antenna. This antenna is a directional antenna. That antenna has 2 blades. This antenna has 4. You can see all the coax connections, okay? They get mounted differently than the ATG antenna. does. This antenna, the omnidirectional antennas out there, best way to describe it is the forward antenna's out here looking for a signal, okay? Once it finds that signal, it's going to hand it off to that aft antenna. That aft antenna on the ATG product is going to hold on to that until it finds another signal, and it's going to bring the forward antenna signal to the aft antenna. It keeps doing that. So if your aircraft is driving into heavy congestion as you go from Fort Lauderdale up to Teterboro on Wednesday, and you're continuing to drive into heavy congestion on traffic, do you think you're probably going to drive out of that, or are you probably going to continue to drive in if that forward antenna is always looking forward and picking up the next antenna station? Well, you're going to probably continue to run into congestion. And so by having a dual directional solution, this forward antenna is actually looking forward and right, and the aft antenna is looking aft and left. And what it's doing is it's looking for the best signal and the best connection for your aircraft. So there may be an unutilized tower or an unutilized sector that's available, and it will lock onto that signal as long as it can until it finds the next signal as you continue to motor along at 41,000 feet doing 450 knots, hitting tower to tower, okay? Does that help explain the difference in antennas and why they're so critical? Okay. This is the antenna that also has the long lead right now for us, and also for our OEMs and for our dealers, because we have a number of dealers that are sitting waiting to do installs, waiting for antennas. We have been addressing this. I mean, we haven't let this go lightly. We have been addressing this since about May of last year, the antenna situation. We have one antenna supplier right now. We went in and actually helped that antenna supplier. We helped pay for their overtime to produce more antennas, helped streamline some of their production to increase their output. It's still not enough. We have that great a demand. So we have worked on a second supplier, and that second supplier is coming up to speed now. We hope, we all do, we hope that that second supplier will be up and available about the June or July timeframe, which will ease some of this backlog that we have to support more installations this year. But that's the antenna. You can also see the mounting of that antenna. It has a, we'll call it a foolproof hole pattern, so that it makes sure that you mount one way and one the other direction. For those of you also that are familiar with the ATG product, if you look over at that King Air again, you can see that one antenna is mounted quite a ways in the rear and one antenna is mounted up front. And that's because it had an engineering requirement of approximately 8 foot worth of spacing between those two antennas. Sometimes on smaller fuselaged airplanes, that became difficult to find clean real estate approximately 8 foot apart. You can start to look at bottoms of airplanes, and the antenna farm anymore is huge on these airplanes. So this allows us to tighten these up. These have a much smaller requirement. I want to say it's 28 inches. Is that right, Joe? Approximately center to center. Right in there. I may be off by an inch or two, but I think it's 28 inches. And instead of pouring them forward and aft like this, some people put one right here and put one right on the other side and kind of stagger them. And you're actually able to tighten that pattern up even a little bit more. So no longer do you have to have an antenna sitting out here. You could maybe have them all right in here. You could have the LRU sitting in the hell hole right here, and your coax runs are much shorter when you do it that way. Versus some folks may say, well, I'd like you guys to use my existing ATG locations if I'm upgrading to an L5. But the problem is that at some point in time, that location is a long ways away. And so you end up with some pretty long coax cable runs. And anytime you get a coax cable run, the longer they get, the more loss you can tend to get off of that. So it helps keep those runs shorter. Here's the antenna and the comparison. Here's our current ATG product, or our L3 product antenna. And then here is the directional antenna. More antennas, okay? So antennas I just showed you go on the fuselage. You also get to install 6 Wi-Fi antennas inside the cabin and 2 terrestrial modem antennas inside the cabin. So these little puck-like guys right here go off the sidewall. I want to say it's 28, 32 inches off the water line of the airplane along the sidewall. Am I right, Tim? Is that about right per the installation manual? And so those get installed. You don't have to tear out the headliner, and that's all we all know. Tearing out headliners on airplanes is tough. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on and a lot of man hours. So you can usually mount these in the sidewall area along the side or along where the chair rail typically is in that zone. 6 of them are going to support the Wi-Fi in the cabin, with 3 of those being hooked up to the 5, and 3 of those being hooked up to the 2.4, and then the remaining 2 are hooked up, of course, to the 4G terrestrial. Oh man, if you know, the time we always say to put the question was if we have the interior out, does it help with those puck antennas? And the answer is yes.
Well, is there an advantage to putting them in the overhead?
No real advantage to the overhead. Joe, we've seen them in sidewall, overhead. We've even seen a few down lower, correct?
So it is ideal to put them in the overheads. So our guidance is 3 areas: overhead, sidewalls, and then bulkheads, right, either forward or aft. Yep.
Yeah, with the L3 and the L5 product, different from the ATG. ATG didn't have anything that went in the cabin like that you had to tear out the sidewalls and mount antennas. L3 and L5 and SCS, all of those need these antennas in there. So anytime you've got that interior out, that's a key time to do this installation. Sure is. If you're doing ADSB work and having interiors done and things like that, that's the optimum time so that you don't have to take an interior out again or sidewall. Aircraft config module, as I mentioned, all of these products, SCS, L3, L5, all receive aircraft config module. It's just like the ATG config module that was out there, so there's commonality amongst all of those. The nice thing about it is it stores all the configuration. So let's say, unfortunately, there's an LRU box that has to be removed. Your L5, for some reason, has to come out. All of the data then is still contained on that aircraft config module, so it's preserved that way. System diagram on how the L5 ties in. Hungry devices, once again. L5 feeding the hungry devices. Aircraft config module controlling the entire system. L5 belly mount antennas. Cabin antennas for Wi-Fi. Terrestrial modem antennas. All that makes sense? Data plans. The 4G network, we operate a 3G network and a 4G network, and the 4G network data and voice plans are slightly different in some ways than the 3G. We do have still the Gogo Biz Pro plan at $3,995 a month, which gives you unlimited, and this offers no streaming, okay? We have a smaller plan, the 4G 1000 and the 4G 2500, and you can see appropriate prices with the amount of megabytes included, any additional overages. Once again, non-streaming plans. And then we have 3 streaming plans. Buckets of data, once again, 5,000 megabytes, 10,000, 15,000 megabytes, streaming enabled, and your costs associated. There's a kind of a big thing out there. Everybody wants to stream everything. Gosh, we want to stream this, we want to stream that. Well, streaming's expensive. It's moving data back and forth, okay? And I have people that say, I'm going to stream movies all day long to my airplane. Well, if you stream a standard definition movie to your airplane, the amount of data that you're probably going to move is in the neighborhood of $1,500 to $2,500 worth of data to watch one movie. And I have to be honest, I haven't found a movie yet, guys, that I feel is worth that kind of money, period. So, based on that, you know, now I have some folks that want to stream sports events. Now that's a little bit different. NBA operates an aircraft, and Major League Baseball operates an aircraft, and what do you think they like to stream? Baseball. So they have a need to stream baseball, live shows. And so, there is a need for that for some folks. I had a whole airplane of, we'll call them younger folks on board, and all they wanted to do, 6 of them, was FaceTime all their friends that were down on the ground and then FaceTime each other that were on the airplane. And so the amount of data that FaceTiming somebody uses, because keep in mind, it's video and audio. So you're pulling all of that. And so here are the voice plans associated down here. Here's the one I mentioned, silver plan, 60 minutes, 134. That's typically what people are putting in. Any questions on the L5? Okay. L3. L3's like the little brother to the L5 product. This is our replacement for the ATG Classic products. It comes in, you can see the box here in the center, once again, 3 MCU. It comes in 3 different varieties. It is our affordable, flexible solution. And why we say affordable, in some cases as technology improves and as we continue to emerge, we actually are able to take cost out of some of these systems. And this L3 is a perfect example. If you line up the L3 and its hardware and components, and then of course the functionality and the capability that it has, and you put that next to an ATG product, an ATG 5000, if you're comparing an L3 Max and an ATG 5000, hardware-wise, you could probably be looking at about $120,000 for the Gogo hardware for an ATG Classic 5000 combination. Whereas with an L3 Max combination for Gogo supplied hardware, you're at about $68,000 for that Gogo supplied hardware. So you're looking at anywhere from about a $40,000 to $50,000 savings. Plus, you're bringing new technology to the airplane. You're bringing a newer style router, an AC router, and you're bringing IFE solutions. So, better performance, smaller packaging, because it's all contained in one box versus a CTR and an LRU, and then the cost. So, we think that we have a real hit with this L3 product. For those that don't feel that they need an L5 product, don't need that streaming capability, that they don't need 40 IP addresses that an L5 product brings. This product brings 5 IP addresses for the entry-level product, 7 IP addresses for the mid-range product, and 25 IP addresses for the top-of-the-line Max. So, system-wise, once again, it's built off the same bones as the other ones are. It has a dual Wi-Fi, 2.4, 5 gigahertz performance, cabin management through these same suppliers. It uses the current ATG antenna, so it uses that 3G antenna. For those that have maybe peeled back a few layers of the onion, it could also use the L5 antenna if you chose to put the L5 antenna on. And you might say, Scott, why would we do that? Well, you may have a future need for an L5, but you want to start with an L3 product. And so if you have, you might have a bigger airplane and you might see, a future need that you're going to have more passengers on board, and you might need that 40 IP addresses. A good example is Michelin is one of my customers, and they're operating new Falcons. They were a Hawker operator, Hawker 900 operator for many years. They've moved to Falcons. Falcons have more seats. They fill up their flights on every mission. All of a sudden, they were starting to run into some ATG problems and said, gosh, what's going on here? And they called us. Well, they were trying to hook almost 40 devices up to a system that was designed to handle 25. They were trying to hook 40 devices up to an ATG 5000 that's designed to handle 24 IP addresses. So it's no wonder they were running into difficulties. So back to the antenna. If you have a future need for possibly an L5 product, that might be the way to go, is to install the L5 antennas. If not, they come with L3. It does WAN management once again, so it's gonna be the controller of the networks, 3G network, Swift broadband networks, once again Iridium networks, and Inmarsat. It's also going to operate the same way with the 4G terrestrial modem that the SCS product and that the 5 product operates with. It's going to tie into the business system gateway. It's going to provide you with the Gogo Vision library. It's going to do all those same things in that same coverage map across the United States. Talk and text, once again, standard built in as part of the product. No need to activate that entitlement key. It brings in the information and the entertainment at no additional cost for the information, and then it does have the landing page as mentioned before. Talk and text, you can see it does the same thing, and once again, it's the dedicated, this is the thing that, most people miss, is that it is a dedicated bandwidth associated with talk and text. Utilizes the business system gateway so that we can monitor it. Ties into the Dash products. And here's a couple comparisons. So, as I mentioned earlier, as we looked over at that King Air, and we see that that King Air has an ATG product, probably ATG 5000 on board. Hungry devices. Here's that CTR that was feeding that. This right here is what ends up becoming, with all the smart devices, and the fact that this was developed in 2007, 2008 timeframe, that becomes a choke point right now for our system. And we readily admit that, and that's why we've developed new products that address that issue. We no longer sell this CTR. That's out of production now. So ATG tying in, the belly mount antennas, aircraft config module. So your L3 is a system comparison. Here you go. Here's your classic system up above, and then here's our platform down below with the L3 sitting there. Feature comparison, because once again, we're providing greater capability at a substantial less price than what we used to offer. Gogo Vision, the router, the 4G, the multi-bearer configuration management, and then a single SSID for the cabin network. Here's the L3 installed by itself, and you can see here are the belly mount antennas, and those, once again, you have the option. L3 antennas are readily available right now versus having to wait till the December time frame for an L5. And then these L3 boxes, we actually started delivering these L3 boxes, I want to say second week of February, and we have boxes available for the last week of March, so we're already sold into the last week of March, and it may even be the first week of April now, because here we are Tuesday already. So at the rate at which we're selling boxes right now, I would probably say the first week of April. So here's a really good chart that we offer that provides the comparison. As I mentioned, it comes in 3 different versions. First version being that core, and the core product has IP addresses. This is 5 IP addresses, and that is very similar to the ATG 1000 and the ATG 2000. Both of those had 5 IP addresses. And the reason that so many people like that also is that it does offer an hourly plan right here. So you can either choose from a monthly subscription plan or for an hourly plan for that product, $99 an hour. It appeals to turboprop light aircraft owners, owner-operators that maybe have lower utilization on their airplanes. You start to get into the 200, 250 hours a year on your airplane, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, you're going to be better off always on a monthly plan associated with that than that hourly plan by the time you start logging those hours. 7 IP addresses on the Plus, 25 IP addresses on the Max. Internet, browsing, streaming, you've got 5 people on, so it's no big deal for utilization. 7 people full browsing, non-streaming on both of those. Talk and text. One of the things with an hourly plan is that talk and text is included in that hourly plan at $99 an hour. So you know what those costs are for the talk and text. You can also, though, have an hourly, monthly plan or an annual plan. And that was something new that we just recently added, was an annual plan. That's for what I'll call is the really low-time users. They're able to buy a bucket of data, and they're able to spread that data out over 12 months with that bucket of data until they run out, and then they can buy more data. So that's another feature that we brought in with the core to help appeal to more folks. Subscription based on monthly. Gogo Vision, of course. Gogo Entertainment, WAM management, support and service. And then here's really what everybody's concerned about. $39,995 for the core. Once again, it best represents the classic ATG product. Classic ATG 2000 came in at about $48,000 for the hardware. Another $9,995 to add the talk and text. So you can see you're already up to $50-something thousand right there. And we do all of that plus more for $39,995. $51,995 for the plus, and then $67,995 for the max. Installation. Both L5, L3, SCS, people put our product in on an STC, a full-blown STC, and people do our installation on an 8110. When they're doing it on an 8110, more than likely they're going to contact a company called Liberty Partners. Liberty Partners provides they have an AML for a Wi-Fi agnostic STC that covers our AC router. They covered our BG router, but it also covers our AC router. So if you're not in the mood to wait for either an OEM or an independent dealer to do a full-blown STC for your aircraft configuration, an 8110 with a Wi-Fi agnostic STC gets it done also. So please keep that in mind. L3 data plans. As I mentioned when we talked about the L4, the L3 had a slightly different data plan also. It has to have a pay-as-you-go. So some folks, low-time use, say, well, we'll just do the pay-as-you-go. And after they usually get their first or second bill, they'll say, oh my gosh, we probably need to be in this range, because people don't realize how many megabytes they use. I mean, if you're on a 2-hour flight and you're sending emails back and forth and you're browsing stuff, and I mean, you'll be just shocked at how much data you use. And that's one of the features that through your own customer portal, you can monitor those flights. You can actually have our customer support group set you up, and so that you can go on after each flight and monitor and say, wow, we did use a lot of data on this flight. So that's very helpful to be able to do that. Here's our hourly plan for that core product. It's billed in 15-minute intervals after the first hour, and no hourly fee per month. And then here is the annual data plan if you want to buy buckets, similar to the way we sell the Swift broadband product for the buckets. You can purchase a bucket of data and drive it for the whole month, or excuse me, for the whole year as you go. If you have multiple airplanes on both of our subscription plans, we do offer a multiple airplane discount that kicks in when you have 3 that are all under the same billing. If you're managing airplanes and they're still being managed by you, but all the billing is done to individual owner operators, those don't qualify. You need to have them all under one single SSA, which is a service subscriber agreement for that fleet to benefit from a multi-aircraft discount. Gogo Vision subscription plan, it's the same L3, L5, SCS. We did cover all that international versus domestic. It's just kind of a recap for you. Any questions on L3? Any questions come back up to mind on L5? SCS? Okay. Well, the latest product that we announced was our new KU product. And we announced this last year at NBAA 2017 out in Las Vegas. And we gave a little bit of a teaser associated with it because it's in development right now. Development's going extremely well. We were all just briefed on it at our last sales meeting. We anticipate to be able to deliver product in the 4th quarter of this year. They would like us to get 10 chipsets sold. I'm hoping to sell 10 chipsets in my area because I have the fleet size that requires KU product, and I have the trip profiles that support it. A lot of airplanes out of South Florida travel internationally, and there's a lot of heavy iron in this region, and that's the type product that's going to need KU. It has a steerable antenna, and of course it's going to provide you with global coverage. So here's our air-to-ground system right here, 3G, 4G, and our next-gen product that's going to support the United States and around it, and our KU product supports worldwide. Our 2KU, which we've been selling for a period of time now, is going in on the airliners at a rapid rate. I want to say there's 1,500 airplanes already that have been converted to 2KU. If you go to YouTube, you'll see some cool videos. They've condensed the overall installation. Anytime you take a commercial aircraft out of service for any period of time, it's not earning money. And so they're very, very concerned about how quick they can get these 2KU units installed. And in some cases, they get them done in 24 to 48 hours. That's how fast they can put one of those systems in. It's all prefabbed, all pre-set up. They come in and install it. But for our systems, the KU system, it'll have a steerable antenna that'll mount up on the tail. It has a power source that drives it, and it has an additional box that ties in either to the into the SCS L3 or L5 product. We'll give you a quick look at the KU product. It does provide the high-speed global delivery, and we are seeing 25 megabytes or greater, I like to emphasize that, on this product. It competes against a product that is called a KA network. Trust me, they don't see those speeds at all. I've talked to a number of operators, and when you throw this number out here, they're pretty excited that this is going to be available. It leverages that same system that all those 2KUs are tied to, and it's all serving the airliners around the world. Competitive pricing fourth quarter. What is competitive pricing? Well, we will be the lowest cost solution for hardware and the lowest cost solution for service. Our hardware comes in at about $400K, which includes that steerable antenna, and we're still working on the buckets of megabytes on the planning for that. But our goal is to be the low-cost provider for the satellite solution. We are the only service provider right here with hardware service support for KU. Another thing with KU is, of course, we're launching satellites all the time. Those of you that live up near Melbourne and those areas, you know that on a regular basis. And satellites are being added. These high throughput satellites are what are being launched right now. Current coverage is in the blue. High throughput satellites are going to be in this kind of purplish magenta color. And those are being deployed, and we will utilize both of those. There's approximately, let me see if I have it here. Yeah, very good. There's approximately over 100, I want to say about 120 KU satellites in service. There's 5 KA satellites in service. Typically, one of those are down for repairs or issues, which gives you 4 KA satellites. Would you like 4, or would you like 120 satellites that are serving you? I think I'd take 120. So I think that's where I would go. But anyway, redundant across the country, consistent, able to reroute traffic if you have additional satellites. We have regulatory approval in over 200 countries. It has an open architecture, and it will support those high throughput satellites. Questions on KU? I know that's a little bit brief on it. We hope to have more information on KU by AEA, which is at the end of March out in Las Vegas. So you may see more information on KU at that time. Okay? So the takeaways from today, and we were about right on schedule, so that's good. Takeaways from today, Gogo's product offerings are all new. They come in the form of an SCS product, an L5 product, and an L3 product, and they all utilize the AVANCE platform for driving that technology. Okay? SCS comes in 2 flavors. Keep in mind that SCS product is a great complement to an ATG product. ATG products served us very well for years, okay? And for many, many operators, it will continue to be what they use, okay? But if they want to supplement that, an SCS product is great. If somebody wants a standalone product, an SCS product works well for that also. L5 product, dual air card, streaming capabilities, 40 IP addresses. So if you've got, you know, Part 91 corporate flight departments that have a lot of people on board, you know, trying to go around the cabin and ask certain people to turn certain devices off isn't an easy task for pilots, and that's usually who it's left to after they give a pilot briefing and somebody says, you know, Tom, you got 3 devices on, buddy, you're going to have to turn 2 off and only leave 1 on. They're like, well, you can go pound sand. So anyway, that's a tough deal. And then our L3 product, the newest product, once again, 3 different versions, Core, Plus, and Max. Tremendous capability, functionality, substantially less price than the classic ATG product that it's replacing. So I'll open it up for any questions, any products, anything that comes to mind. Technical questions, we've got Joe here for that. L3, Liz handles a large portion of those L3 products. So I'll open it up. Anybody in the room? Okay. Yeah, good question. The question is that if you have, let's say, an SCS, L3, L5, and you have the media, you have the entertainment portion of it, which is the movies and the TV, how does that get billed? Well, what you mentioned is something that we're all trying to get towards, and that's what's called a customer pay portal, where they would pay for things on board the airplane. Especially 135 operators really want a pay portal tied to that Gogo. But right now, when you look at a movie or you look at a TV episode, that will show up on that monthly bill. It'll show you that it'll call out the name of the movie or the TV episode, the date it was viewed, and then the costs associated with it as a tally to that monthly bill. Anybody else? No? All good? Well, thank you very much. We're going to be around here for a couple more hours today, so if there are questions and you want to talk about things one-on-one, we're happy to do that. But we sure appreciate you coming out and seeing our presentation today. And we really do appreciate Banyan hosting us and setting all this up. They've done a fantastic job for us, and they are truly one of our dealers and our partners in this together. So thank you all. Appreciate it.